again, thank you so much for joining us this evening for our last webinar of 2023. I always appreciate that busy small business owners like yourselves and our community partners that serve them come out for events like these at the end of what is probably a very long day for many of you. So thank you, but you are in for a treat tonight. We have our digital marketer extraordinaire, Jackie Jones, leading our discussion, and two of our fantastic digital marketing partners. We have representatives from Vizit and from YieldDay. They have amazing technology platforms that you're going to learn about tonight. Before we get started and I hand it over to Jackie, I just wanted to speak again about how much Mastercard values the economic impact of small businesses, and that we really feel strongly, because you all are the backbone of our economy and creating the much needed jobs at the local level. We really feel we're uniquely positioned and have an obligation to help you thrive as you face increasing pressures to keep pace with the rate of change. We know that, you have the potential to grow your business, and we want to make sure that you have the right tools, partners, information, and services to build, grow, and protect your business. Again, we understand that with those tools, you have the potential to do so much more in terms of growing your companies, but we also understand that access to things like information, access to business networks, access to new opportunities, access to capital is not always equal. And therefore, we created Digital Doors in the height of the COVID pandemic to help you all to get online, accept digital payments, build your digital presence, operate online safely, and really grow and thrive in this digital economy. So again, when you look at the commitments that we've made and the progress we've made, there's still always more to do. But here in the States, we are looking at what more can we do for business owners that have traditionally not had equal access to some of the tools and resources I've mentioned, whether it's our $500 million commitment to In Solidarity to Black communities, the work that we're doing with Hispanic business owners and consumers, our global commitments to digitizing 25 million women business owners, and certainly other groups that we partner with throughout communities like yours. Always willing to hear more about what we can do. I'm excited to be planning with our team now for what's coming in 2024, and we've learned a lot, but feel free to email us at digitaldoors@mastercard.com with any feedback on this session or other ideas about how you think we can help you. So tonight I'm going to introduce you to Jackie Jones. If you have not been in one of her sessions before, you're in for a treat. We would love to have all of your faces on screen, but because there are so many of you, we're doing this in a webinar format. But Jackie is the founder and CEO of 1 Degree Marketing. It's a digital marketing firm that she's led for about 10 years in Birmingham, Alabama. This is a second or possibly third career for Jackie. She was also a veteran. She has received numerous awards from both the Birmingham Business Journal, the American Marketing Association, Birmingham chapter, but also globally. She was part of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Initiative. She's also a grantee of Beyonce's Be Good Foundation. And so we're just so lucky to have her as a partner here at Mastercard. And we're going to go through some of the foundational basics about your holiday marketing plans, and then we're going to open up the discussion with Jackie and our partners. So with that, I'll hand it over to Jackie.
Hello, everyone in Zoom box world out there. Thank you, Colleen. I always tell Colleen I have to carry her around with me as she introduces me in such a wonderful way, because I always sound so great when she says these things. So thank you, Colleen. Thank you to all. Mastercard, they're such a wonderful partner, both for me as an individual, but also as a small business owner. So welcome. If you have not been in a session with me before, please know that it is very active. So let's go ahead and start that off really quickly in the chat. If you have access, drop for us comment who you are, what you do, where you're located. Spam it out. Give us some URLs. Where can we find you? Just spam it all the way so people can scroll and understand who's here in the room with them. So tell us where you are, give us your website address, whatever you want to give us. Drop that now. Let's jump in, jump out, and introduce ourselves. All right. I want to know that you can use the chat. Make sure you're on to everyone as you're chatting so that we don't just get it here as hosts and panelists. All right. I'm not going to take very much of your time here up front. I am going to cover just a few things, but I am super excited to have two other wonderful individuals here with me from Vizit and YieldDay. And so I'm really, really excited to bring them up. But as I always say, I want to make sure that we're all kind of in the same place when we get started, because some of you maybe have been in business a few years, some of you a few months. We don't know, right? So we just want to make sure that we are kind of at least traveling the same path before we get too far in. So I'm excited for you to get to the gentlemen who have joined us today, but let's jump right in, right? You are here. I love the spamming that's going on. This is welcome spam. Give it all to us, okay? So let's frame here, right? Digital marketing tips for the holidays. Now, the holidays are here, right? So let's just talk about the elephant in the room. It is December 5th, 2023, 5:08 Central Standard Time, 6:08 Eastern Standard, 3:08 Pacific Time, December, right? So we are in the holidays, and I know for a lot of you, you are in the thick of it, and that's fine, but it's really, really important that I start with kind of the goal here today. Our goal is to be smart about our marketing during this season, but also beyond. Sometimes for us, holiday marketing can kind of just jump off other types of marketing. It can be the start of something. Sometimes it's the end of something, but it really can be the start of something if we're willing to think about where we are, be strategic in this moment, take this opportunity to create some new things to take us into the new year. Man, I said spam up the chat and you all did it, didn't you? Yes, you did. All right. So thank you for that. Here we go. So anytime I do any type of webinar, the first thing I want to do is make sure that I tell you what assumptions I am making before I give you any information, because I can never assume, and I never want you to assume. This is kind of a pro tip for attending webinars, as if you need one in 2023. But you always want to have some level of understanding of what happens before the information that you're getting. Never assume that it is step one, right? That's very rare that it's step one. And usually people will tell you, this is the first thing you have to do. I can promise you this is not the first thing you have to do, right? So here are my assumptions for you today. So my first assumption is that you already have brand development done, right? So today we're not talking about your colors, your tone, your brand voice, the message that you're doing. Like, we have to assume in this conversation that we're going to have that you've already really thought about that. Now, whether you thought about it and whether it's in place really well or not are not the same thing. Come on, small business owners, I need to know you feel me on that, right? It's like, I know what the branding is. I know what I'm trying to do. Maybe it's not quite what I want it to be, but I am aware of it. I understand you're not going to cover that, right? That is my first assumption. Branding, brand development, you have some thought process around it. You have something in place, right? The next assumption that I have to make is that you've created the processes that are necessary for your holiday marketing, right? So any processes, if you have a website, whatever your cart is, however you are getting the information in from people, getting them the things, delivering the products, delivering the services, people are scheduling those processes. I have to assume in this conversation, you've already done that, right? Carts, links, all your marketing channels, you've kind of decided, I'm not going to cover that today, and our conversation won't necessarily cover that in great detail, but I have to make that assumption before we start. Also, I have to assume that you've done some level of audience definition, right? And as I always say in every webinar, that's probably a good place for us to start, is definition. But I have to assume that you have done some level of it before we get going. So let's kind of start here with audience. Not only do we really want to know who we're typically talking to, but we really want to understand where they are in this season, right? In this holiday season, fourth quarter of the year. There are a lot of ways you can frame these months of the year. Where are they? What are they thinking about? What is important to them at this time? I always give people this example of me as a mother. There are a lot of things that matter to me concerning my child throughout the year, but everybody knows if it's late July, August, I am trying to think about what does the school list look like? What do I have to do? All that kind of thing, right? Great. But here we are in the holiday season. And while you might think I'm thinking, oh, I have to get gifts for my child, maybe not. Maybe that's not what I'm thinking. Maybe I'm thinking, I really want my son to believe in giving back during the holiday season. I'm looking for volunteer opportunities, right? So it depends who your audience is at different points along the year, different parts of their lives. That's what we call psychographics, really understanding what's important to them at that time. Doesn't mean the other times it's not important, but maybe it's taking priority right now. So we want to think about in this time, what's important to them? What are their priorities? What problems are they currently facing? Never assume that people aren't buying from you, taking your offer because they, just don't want to. Sometimes it's just not a priority. Maybe the money's not there. It's all being wrapped up and put under the Christmas tree. Like, we don't know. But what problems might they currently be facing that may become an obstacle for you? So we want to think about that as well. Most importantly, I want you to try to identify what you're offering. How does it support them in this season? Now, you may be thinking to yourself, well, Jackie, I sell, I always look here on my desk, I sell pens, and I just don't know that pens support people in this season. Like, that's just random. I don't think it's related. Be creative, because how else are they going to say who it's to and who it's from without a great holiday pen? Hello, right? That's the marketer in me. I'll sell anything. But tell me in the chat if you understand what I'm saying. You've got to know where their minds are. You've got to know what's important to them, because we don't want to skip past that. We want them to know that we know who they are, where they are, how they're feeling, what's important. But we also don't want them to forget that we are here for them. The product or service that we're offering is something they can still use. And sometimes you have to say, hey, get it now because it's on sale. You might not use it until later. You can call all of that out, but we want to do it with our audience in mind. All right, chat, I see you all out there. Great. So you get it. Awesome. Now, the next thing I want to make sure we're aware of before we start this larger conversation is, yes, you know what you offer regularly, right? You know what products, what services, you've thought about that. The question now is in this season, in our holiday season, what are you choosing to offer right now? What is your approach going to be? Now, if you're already into your holiday sales and you're thinking, I've already decided this, that's cool. This is not the only holiday season that exists, right? There's more that you can do later. Maybe there's a Valentine's season, like there are other seasons. But if you haven't, or you have time in this one, I want you to think about what approach you're taking. Now, maybe you want to take the approach of your best-selling, most used products or services. Hey, I'm going to give you more of what you're asking for. You love this all year long, so I'm going to go the quantity route. I want more of that. You love it. This shouldn't be a problem, right? So our message begins to be, get more of what you love, right? Hey, you would pay regular price for this. But because it's the holidays and I'm feeling so generous in my small business hood, I'm going to give you a discount because I expect you to run me over and everyone in between us to try to get to it. So our message is, let's get more of what you love. And our content might be around having testimonials of people who love it, prior sales, how quickly you sold out the last time, and just generally why people love it, right? Now, another approach that you might decide to take is maybe you need to move some inventory. If you are dealing in like products, pins, right? Then maybe you need to get rid of some things. That's very possible. And that's fine for your approach in marketing. Do you need to? Our message then becomes, we're making room for new things. So you actually benefit from that, like benefit from us making some space. We're no longer going to offer this if that's going to be the case. Get it before it's gone, etc. So we just want to make sure that we understand, yes, we know what we're always offering, but in this season, what is our approach to how we are pressing and making sales, or how we're connecting with people, how we are continuing to create that you've got to have it now, you want to buy it now. I know you can't wrap it and give it to your kids or family members or friends or loved ones. It's for you. It's okay to say that, right? So we just want to make sure we're thinking about our offer and that approach up front. Everybody with me? Right. All right. Thank you, Ann. I appreciate that. Thank you, Amber. Hey, Amber. I love Amber. All right. So the next thing I want to tell you is to make a plan, right? This is just kind of We'll call this tips. I'm not going to be too specific, but I want to tell you why it's so important for you to make this plan. You want to ensure that you are marketing with a focused goal in mind. That increases your, this is changes. It's supposed to say chances. I will change it before you get your slides, but it will increase your chances a lot. Mostly because I know, and I need you all to be honest with me, okay? We can't see your faces, right? In the chat, tell me if you go through this. You start posting content, you start doing this stuff, but then you're not always focused on the same buy this now goal. And if you are, it's short term, it's not super consistent. If any of that sounds like you, this is a safe space. You can say, that sounds like me, right? It's the non-consistent for me. Thank you, Anne, because I need to know it's friends. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. You see that? Feel the virtual hug that you just got. You are not alone. That is a human nature thing. I want you all to know that you are all completely normal. If that's not proof, please know that it's normal. I do this for a living and it's normal for me. So I want you to make sure you have some level of a plan. While you still may not execute it all, let me just not make you any promises here. While you still may not execute it all, if you have to put it down and pick it up another time, if you want to just make sure you're pressing toward the same goal, just starting, like Marie just said, you just want to make sure that you have something in place to increase your chances of being consistent and continuing to move forward, which is what that bottom says, eliminate the paralysis and the inconsistency. But also, we want to make sure we're being cohesive in our message here. You don't want to be in one platform doing one thing and another platform doing another thing, and then you start running ads and it looks like something completely different because your mind is in different places, right? You're like, oh, this is important today. So we want to have some type of plan that helps us create with cohesion, eliminate that paralysis that comes with it, eliminate the inconsistency. That's really, really important. So that's your kind of first tip. Now, one that I think is really important that I want to make sure I mention before we bring our partners up is that I want you to use your resources. Now, this is going to sound like a commercial, but as a small business owner who does marketing for a living, I need you to know how great the Digital Doors Marketing Hub truly, truly is. Do you all know about the Marketing Hub? Let me know in the chat. Do you all know? Marie is asking there, I see, so should everything be similar across social channels? For the most part, we want it to be consistent across the brands. It should be brand consistent, yes. Look at all these no's. Look at that. You all don't know about this? Stop. I got all the information for you right here. Don't worry about it. I want you to use your resources. So within Mastercard's Digital Doors, which is a great, there's so much good information here. When you click on promote your business, you're going to see the Mastercard Marketing Hub there. There are offers for platforms that I know some of you are very familiar with. Hootsuite for your social media scheduling, things of that nature. You have, if you're using Shopify, Triple Whale can help you manage your analytics in real time. With Vizit, you can have more effective imagery in your marketing, increase your impact, motivate your customers to commit. And if you're getting like paid advertising, YieldDay can help you with that. And we're going to hear from Vizit and YieldDay today, but Ad Designer is also here, which is professional layouts, AI-assisted copy support, stock photos, templates for social, like all the things. They are right there. And for the things that cost money, most of them, might be all of them, but because I don't know for sure, we're going to say most of them offer some level of discount specifically for you all who are coming through Mastercard's Digital Doors. So I want you to make sure, and when I send you the slides, I'll put a button here for you to click, for you to go straight to it. But make sure you spend some time in there and utilize those resources. There are also within Digital Doors, lots of information, courses, all kinds of stuff, recordings, things that you can go back and watch. So please use that. This is not me saying this as a Mastercard partner. This is me saying this as an entrepreneur, especially that does marketing. Please go in and utilize those things. All right. I have said all of those things. Are you ready? Now, Amber, let me not miss this. Amber wanted to make sure you all know that the Ad Designer in the Marketing Hub is free. Anyone can use it. So if you miss what I said about Ad Designer, just by the way, professional layouts, you're making your stuff, your social content, AI assisted copy support, stock photos, stock photos. Who doesn't need stock photos? Templates for social, all of that, right? So make sure you go and check that out. Thank you, Amber, because that's so important. All right. And now, if you have questions, I'm happy to take them, but I want to go ahead and get our partners up so that we can make sure we're being conscious of everyone's time. So now I would like to introduce two wonderful people to you. Let me start with Paul. Paul Carpinella is Senior Director of Growth Marketing for Vizit, an AI-based image and analytics company. Paul has 20 plus years of marketing experience, predominantly as a roll-up-your-sleeves marketer for small business and tech startups. Come on up, Paul. Join me here.
Hello.
Hey, all right. So glad that you are here. All right. Next, we have Rudy De La Garza Jr. The junior is an inside joke over here. He is a seasonal expert in SEO and digital marketing, having specialized in this field since 1997. 19, y'all. A graduate of Stephen F. Austin State University with a BBA in marketing and general business, he founded SEOmarketing.com to aid startups and mature companies. Y'all with me? I need y'all to hear this. Recognizing the burgeoning potential of search engines early on, Rudy developed strategies for acquiring organic traffic. We all need that. His significant achievements include being the sole digital marketing executive for Bankrate.com, contributing to its acquisition for $1.8 billion by Red Ventures. Currently CEO of YieldDay, where he leverages machine learning and AI for business strategy and digital execution, serving Fortune 1000 companies and private firms. That's y'all. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. All right. Now, first tell me, how did I do? Did I get everybody kind of in the same place? Are we in a good place right now? Yes. Okay. I have to make sure I'm doing my job over here. All right. So before we get started, I gave your brief bios, which is fine, but can you describe for everyone, just kind of tell us again, say hello individually, but also kind of describe for us just what problems you solve for businesses, what your companies do. Give us a more plain language understanding of what it is that your companies do. I'll let you all fight over who goes first.
Go ahead, Paul.
Awesome, thanks. So we're an AI company based out of Boston, and what we do is we help brands, retailers, and agencies, identify the right images to use in their marketing campaigns and on their websites. In essence, what we're able to do is look at the visual preferences of specific consumer audiences, and put that into a lookalike. We tend not to say that, but it's basically a lookalike audience to create that eye of the consumer. And then what the platform's able to do is automatically test how likely that image would achieve some kind of success, whether that's a click on a social media ad or a purchase on a product detail page.
So just really quickly before we get to Rudy, can you tell us what made you all, do you know kind of what triggered that? Like, what were business owners experiencing or going through that made you say, you know what, y'all need some help? What was that?
Yeah, so traditionally, image testing is something that is an expensive and lengthy process. You could either do an A/B test where if you're putting two images up on for example, a Facebook post to test which one you should end up using in the end. If you had the wrong image up there in the first place, you probably lost a lot of momentum.
Right.
And obviously, we know how algorithms work. The other piece as well is we also realize that if you're doing traditional consumer research, like panels and surveys, those are usually only 1 or 100 people or so not necessarily huge, and it still takes time to do that. So as opposed to being able to quickly say, I want A or B, A is going to get better because I know I'll ask these people I know, you're sitting there waiting. So those were really the big problems that we're actually looking to solve for businesses.
Okay, thank you so much, Paul.
Thank
All
you.
right, Rudy, can you break it down for us?
Yeah, let's make it as simple as possible, and brevity is always helpful this time of year as well. So YieldDay aim to solve one problem, and that is reduce the cost of digital advertising for folks who are spending money in these platforms, Facebook, Google, Trade Desk, whatever it is. That's what we set out to solve, and we did so by identifying a set of data that a lot of people were just either ignoring or throwing away. And then something happened about, oh gosh, is it almost 2.5 years now ago? Google announced that they were getting rid of cookies. And and it's okay if, people aren't following this level of detail around digital advertising. I get it. Safe to say, YieldDay just happened to be sitting with a technology that doesn't use cookies or anything like that, but is geared towards identifying anonymous user behavior on your website in real time and scoring that behavior based on how close that visitor is to purchasing the pair of shoes or purchasing the hair care or putting putting or filling out your form, those types of things. Whatever those conversion events are, we just figured out how to do that in a safe way, in a privacy centric kind of way. And that's where, the whole world is going now. So we just happen to be sitting here with a really cool solution. Google makes this cool announcement that benefits us, and we're off to the races. But at its core, we were trying to do something for our clients that made them gain increased conversion rates while also reducing ad cost. And that's YieldDay.
All right. And you answered the other question too about kind of what you were solving, which is, for both of you, you are doing the hard work that none of us really want to figure out. And we appreciate that. We really do. Because it's hard enough as a small business owner to just do some of the basics, let alone some of that really deep marketing that's targeted and that kind of thing. And so while I'm talking to you, Rudy, could you kind of tell us like, what is the importance of targeting anyway? So we're just going to kind of back up and hit the kind of really, really basics. Like, why is targeting so important to your marketing? And especially in the frame of holiday season, right? In general, but also in the frame of holiday season. Why is that so important?
Gosh, I'm so glad you're asking that, because every dollar counts. I mean, I went to the grocery store the other day, and my favorite beef sausage just went up like $2.50, and I couldn't believe it. Hey, I'm a meat eater. I don't, hey, whatever. All right. So, I mean, the grocery bill's high. So think about that for a small business too, when either you have limited resources or you're a mid-sized company that has budgeted a certain amount of budget for this year. And you need to use that, because guess what? Your name is next to that expenditure when your boss is going to come talking about how well you did. Great. So this situation is universal. And that is, how can we increase conversion rate, decrease ad costs, because our budgets really need to do more with less these days. And so that's really where the angle is here about targeting. So if you had a technology that could identify while this visitor is on your website, like while they're in it, how are they behaving in relation to everything else you've learned about all the other visitors that have come since the beginning of time? And is this person have a higher propensity to convert into whatever it is? Put the shoes in the cart, fill out the form, whatever. So if you could know that in real time and harness that behavior into a score that becomes an event in the platforms, that's what we want to do, because you can make audiences around that. Yeah. And if you can make audiences around that, a new world opens up for you. We call it right sizing your ad budget. And when we score visitors, we score them on a number between 1 and 10. We also have a 0. 0 means we think you're a bot or fraud. So, making sure that zeros don't get into your ad campaigns was just a byproduct of what we created, and didn't realize that that would be something pretty cool too, because, I can't solve the bot problem in the world. I think that's not my problem. I mean, that's somebody else's problem. But what we can do is make sure that you don't spend money on it. So that's what we did, and it happened to be a byproduct of what we created, but we score every visitor 1 through 10. So think about this. Now we can make audiences, especially for retargeting, where you can right size your ad budget. Let's say that you spend, and I'm just making up numbers for easy math here, but some of the companies we work with are spending $1,000 a day and more, but some of them are spending $1,000 a day on retargeting. Well, now, if you know the scores of all of the people that are hitting your site, imagine being able to put $600 on the people that score 8, 9, and 10. And you'd be able to put $300 of your budget on the people that score 4, 5, 6, and 7, and only put through 3s, right? So now you can see where, the power of knowing a target audience, the power of using AI these days to score in the moment. That's some powerful stuff, and that's stretching your ad dollar.
Yeah, and that is such a good thing for people to understand, especially as a small business owner, when you're trying to do everything yourself, is that the more specific and targeted you can be, the better you spend your money, just as you were saying. And so thank you for that answer. Now, similarly to targeting, because we have our audience, we know who they are, that kind of thing. Can you talk to us, Paul, a little bit about why the images matter in the first, like why does this matter in our marketing? Why does choosing our images, for some of us creating our images, right? But just knowing what images resonate best. Why is that important, to marketing in general? Because I don't know if everyone knows this, but marketing is it's manipulative, y'all. We have to know humans really well and then get them to do what we want them to do. So I always recommend people stay in the light. Don't go to the dark side, stay in the light. But it is pretty manipulative, right? But why is the imagery so important? What part does that play for us?
Yeah, so if you think about it, we're a very image obsessed world right now. We actually did a survey last year with a consumer audience in the Path to Purchase Institute. And we found that a majority of humans are spending at least 4 hours a day on social media. And sadly, the buckets above the 4 hours are huge. So, as they're going through that scroll, they're being exposed to different kind of images and really starting to form a visual bias. And then when you factor in that, just really looking at your Facebook feed, that's not even thinking about looking at your LinkedIn feed, looking at your email inbox where you're just getting tons of personalized offers they're all image based. So at this point in the world, it's almost like everything's becoming Las Vegas Strip, honestly, and it's pretty easy to get washed out. And really, the images, especially in online shopping experiences, and even I think in social experience as well, the higher quality of the image, the more likely you're going. Apologies for it's also dinner time here, but the more likely folks are actually going to want to purchase your products. Even think about your holiday shopping potentially if you're on a let's say that the Amazon retailer or things like that. Even as I'm scrolling through, I'm price conscientious, and I'll admit sort the list by low to high, but I'm still looking at that hero image. If that first result has a really good image that looks like it's high quality, I'm then going to start pumping in and looking at those supporting images. And, if those don't look like high quality, I'm going to end up dropping there as well. So I think, definitely, with tools like a YieldDay and targeting tools like YieldDay and more, tools, which I think probably small businesses will soon have, especially in these Shopify sites and things like that. We just have so much of an ability to really understand schools of fish, so to speak, from a consumer perspective. And the more we know about them, the more we know how to really speak to them and tell your story to them through the visuals, through the copy, and through the right ads at the right time in your life. I think the more successful we'll all be as marketers, big or small companies.
Yeah. That's good. You said, and I want to ask everyone in the chat to do something, answer a question for me in the chat really quickly, but I want to ask you something, Paul, that you said in the chat really quickly, though. Can you all tell us what industry you're in? Just really quickly, retail, fashion, there we go. But even if it's fashion, are you doing services? Are you doing retail? Like, give us an idea of kind of what the process is like for you to get the money, right? If you are like, for instance, consulting, coaching, is this, I'm doing a service, invoicing, like give us some idea, just so we have an understanding of kind of who we're talking to too, as I answer these, ask these questions. But Paul, while I wait for them to just do way more than we can read at one time,
I'm like looking over.
I know it's like scroll, but I asked for it. You said the words visual bias. I can't speed past that, right? Can you just for a minute just explain what visual bias is? Because I think people really do forget, and especially in this season, I keep trying to bring it to this frame, right? During this time, there are things that you can and cannot affect. Some things just are a part of us as humans, right?
Yep.
Part of how we grew up, what part of the country we're in, like all these things that are just kind of, if you want to go psychology, nature versus nurture kind of thing, right? So what does visual bias really mean? What does that mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. So really a visual bias is at the heart of it, it's the way I want to see a picture. And it's the things I want to see in the picture. It's the way I want to see models with clothing. It's in terms of, either a coat on or a coat over the shoulder. It's a way I want to see kind of my packaging for a food product when I'm at the grocery stores. And it's even things like, the types of colors that I really want to see there. So that's really where those biases really at the heart of it come from. And a lot of that's really based on what you're exposed to on a day in and day out basis. So certainly some of that might be cultural, certainly some of that might be part of the country, but it's also what you're seeing and what you're saying. I mean, it's kind of like I suppose the Webster word of the year kind of phenomenon as well. Kind of, you keep saying things on and over again, and then just kind of gets ingrained into you as well.
So we are brainwashing ourselves. Thank you for that information. We appreciate
But we evolve. We evolve.
We do, which is natural, right? There's a natural progression to life, which is so interesting to know that like you all's technologies that use AI especially has these capabilities to kind of understand and give these scorings and just to what happens next, which is crazy to me. But we do evolve, but we are also feeding our own monster a lot of times. Yep. So we got a lot of industries here. Let's just take a minute and review here, right? A lot of retail. So that means I'm assuming you all are using some carts like Shopify, if you're using a website that has people to be able to pay right there in the moment. We have some retail and manufacturing on the fashion side, services. Hey, services people, we love you. Service providers, we're really feeling for you out there. Do not be afraid to ask your questions in this space. Landscaping, I love that because I'm not cutting any grass or shrubs or anything that goes with landscaping. Packaged food products, okay, we got some nutrition and food. I love that as well. Life coaching. And a lot of people are invoicing. So, that question of how you get your money is really important. So that was one of those assumptions earlier. What are you doing here? Like you've already built some of this stuff. So here's what I want to ask, gentlemen, for both of you, right? From your expertise perspective, what can you share about this season kind of specifically? Do you have any best practices or tips? Because we are here, right? We're here right now. What can you tell us, this group of people that's joined us this evening as they try to eat dinner, like they are in your house, Paul? What can you tell us that is just helpful in the moment right now and concerning holidays? Because again, for everyone who's watching, please don't just think that the things you're about to hear only apply to Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa time. Holidays are holidays. I know this is the holidays. It's like, the thing, but there are other holidays that you might be able to apply this to, other parts and cycles of your marketing, cyclical nature of your customers and their life cycle, right? So I just want you to keep that in mind as you're listening. So Rudy, let's start with you. What can you tell us in the moment framed for this season, holiday season?
Great. Okay. So the first things that come to my mind, I'm trying to bucket them into two things that I would do. As I was reading through the chat, I was putting myself in the shoes of these folks who have this particular type of business at this time. So, and more than likely are on a set budget for digital marketing or marketing in general or advertising in general. And I'm probably in the thick of activity that is happening right now, which is this season. So if it were me, I would bucket things into two things. First, I would say your Google Business profile and your Apple Business Connect profile. Even if you've addressed this recently, I need to tell you, and please, I'm looking you in the eyes right now. Please, you need to put some attention to these things. If I saw a lot of retail, I saw a lot of storefront type businesses here. Even if you're a consultant or a coach, your location optimization is extremely important. So, and when I say you need to put some attention to your Google Business Profile and Apple Business Connect, let me just break it down and make it super simple for you. When you need to find something, what do? You open up that mobile device, and even if you're in the car, think about what happens. You go into Maps and you ask for something, and guess what? Your competitors are showing up, not you. And so I need to tell you, take it from Uncle Rudy right now that, you need to put some time on that, or, set aside what could end up being 30 minutes to 45 minutes to really optimize those things. And I'll just kind of go through very quickly some of the things that are involved in that. And it's going to sound like it's a lot, but let me tell you what these also are. These are signals to Google and Apple that really need to be tickled so that you can get into, I mean, you've all used it. When you use your mobile device to find something, you look at that map box that shows up and there's 3 businesses right there. You need to be one of those businesses. So, when you go into these profiles, you can do your categories. You obviously need to, set the categories. You need to describe that there's called an owner description there. You really need to use as much of the characters as they allow. Fill these things out. Don't do this half-heartedly. Don't put in 2 sentences if it allows for 10,000 characters. This is your opportunity to really describe what you do. Your services can be described, every single little service. They just allow you to keep putting in service after service after service. Really use that. Manage your reviews. If you haven't touched this thing in a while, it's possible that you had people give you a 4-star review. And maybe you could reply to that, saying thank you. Show that you're a real business, a real person. Q&As, posts, photos, videos, all of that is there. So that's the first big bucket of things. The second thing that you could do right now is conversion rate optimization. So that's a heavy term, but basically what it means is that you probably have some traffic coming to your website right now, and you don't even need to dig too deeply. I think you'll believe me when I tell you that it might be hard for all visitors to do what you want them to do. So some simple techniques like looking at your Google Analytics, and I'll give you one nugget right now. Here's one. So if you're an e-commerce site, it's quite possible that it's more than possible. You can go into your Google Analytics right now and you could look at the average session time for all of your visitors. Let's just say it's 3 minutes and 12 seconds. Okay, well, if you have a pop-up on your site that usually pop-ups come up, you've seen these things, you go to this site and then you're about to click away, and then this pop-up comes up and says, wait, before you go. Well, guess what? You've already decided that you're leaving, and that thing's annoying, right? Okay, so my thing is, if you know that your average session time is 3 minutes and 12 seconds, don't pop that pop-up on the event of someone leaving. Pop it up at 3 minutes, right? So that everybody gets the offer. This goes back to what Jackie said. This is getting people in front of your offer, right? So I'm saying get away, if you have a pop-up, get away from an event-based pop-up and do it on time.
Yeah. That's good. That's really good. And that's also, back to that kind of human behavior thing. Like we want to
Yep.
know our audiences, as a small business owner, and I know that for a lot of us who are kind of in digital doors, that kind of thing, it can be very simple, like, oh, we know how old they are, we know what their income is. But that behavior and the analytics that come with that and Google and all of that data and knowledge that's there is gold to us, right? It is gold to better understand our audience and what their behaviors are when they arrive there. So that's such a good call out. Now, I have my pen out because I'm taking notes, like a good business owner. But you mentioned something here that I wanted to go back to. You were saying to use all characters, and there are a couple questions that people have for you, and we're going to kind of do everybody's Q&A at once. So I want you all to know I see you in the chat. I am eyes in the sky when it comes to Zoom, and Colleen is managing it great over there. I see you, Colleen. Thank you. You said to use all characters, and I want, if you could, just for a hot second, I want to kind of remind people that not only are you talking to your audience, but you're talking to Google too. So that explaining of who you are and all of that and these words that you're using organically, of course, why is using that space so important? Stay there. Go back to that just for a second.
Yeah, so it's pretty darn simple. One of them is like you said, you're talking to Google. Well, Google needs words. There's not some human they're hiring for $15 an hour to read your profile and determine things. No, like Paul brought up, there's an algorithm over there that's trying to learn as much as possible about your business. And if you're starving them from the data that they need to really describe you and put you in the right place, that's a missed opportunity.
Yep.
So and some of these fields, they offer 10,000 characters. You probably haven't written an essay since high school. Let's get back into it. Let's rip that out and go ahead and talk to someone. Think about your best customer. Just bring your best customer to mind. Yeah. And speak to him or her as you're writing this. Mm-hmm. And what would you want them to know about your business? You probably would use terms that they use to search for. So this is your opportunity to drop those in there.
All right. Thank you so much for that. I see people in the chat saying, yes, I love that. And again, if you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I do see that Colleen's paying attention. You're also free to use the Q&A function, right? All right, Paul. So same question to you. We're in this season. What are the things that you feel like we should know right now? What's important to us in this season? What do you have for us? No pressure.
Yeah, certainly going back to some of the website behavior in Google Analytics, I think certainly taking a look at those pages which might have a high bounce rate, so people are just leaving really quickly, or potentially that their average time on site is below your base as well. And then almost do the reverse. Take a look at the pages that have good times on site and have a lower bounce rate, and really start to, try to take a look at what some of the patterns are. Or there are a certain number of images that are on those pages that are performing well versus the pages that aren't performing well. Are the types of images up there different? And then really look to see how you can kind of take some of those learnings from those better performing pages, and then certainly put them on the not as well performing pages. As we think about some visual optimizations in terms of social channels and things like that, certainly much like Google needs to learn your business, I think there's also an aspect of, the better your website performs, the better you'll do with Google. It's the same with your social media profiles and things like that. So, certainly this time of year, one of the big things are, certainly creating a human aspect and humanizing the brand as well. So, if you're a small business shop, certainly, make sure your social profiles having images of folks in the shop buying products, smiling faces. That's going to really start kicking the algorithms up because they prefer faces. And by the way, you're probably going to get a lot more interactions if you're a local business and you start seeing hey, maybe this is someone from the mom's club or the dad's club who just came in there, and hey, I'm going to like that or love that. And then that starts kind of getting that algorithm going. In terms of some kind of product imagery as well, folks, or at least the US Gen Pop, tend to like, really images are showing off some of the specific features of a product, zooming in on the product and really back to the humanization of the product, showing people using the product or going out and there as well. A couple of tips and tricks.
Yeah, you know, and I tell people all the time, people need to see themselves with your
Yes.
product. Like if they can't imagine their life with it, if you aren't giving them some example of what that looks like, some people just can't mentally get past, well, where am I going to put it? What does that look like? How do I use
Yep.
it? Why does it matter? You know, you get into the videos and the images that show life happening, you know, with
Yep.
what you offer. Now, before we get into Q&A, thank you so much for that. Before we get into Q&A, I want to just make sure I do this for all my service providers out there. So I'm going to put you all on the spot just a little bit. You know, when we think holiday season, we often think a lot about retail, right? And as service providers, even ourselves, to some extent, you all are kind of sass. But as service providers, you know, what are there any things specifically that you think are important for service-based businesses to keep in mind during the holiday season? Now, I'm actually going to start by answering part of this question myself, just because, you know, I am a marketer, but also I'm a service-based business. I think that sometimes the mindset for service-based business owners are that people aren't thinking about me right now. You're right, they're not. But if we went by that, they're never thinking about you, right? So our job is to kind of put ourselves in the way, right? I always tell people it is not your customer's job to find you, it is your job to get in their way. So as service providers, sometimes, you know, again, that understanding of where your audience is, what's important to them, and making sure you speak to that. We still want to sell them if we have quotas and sales goals and whatever the case is for the fourth quarter. We still want to position ourselves in a conversation where we say, yes, this is still important. I know it's not what you're spending. You don't want to spend your money on it right now, but maybe you need it. If it's something that is, you know, I saw some nutrition and health coaching. It's like, I get it. Thanksgiving, Christmas, it's all the good food. People bring up potlucks. You don't know how many calories that is. You don't actually care, like that kind of thing, right? But at some point, you got to get back on track. So let's go ahead and schedule your consultation today, right? So being able to really just position your message in a way that speaks the language of the season. Are there any service-based industry business tips that you all care to share with us? You can fight over it. I don't, whoever.
You want to go? You want to go, Paul?
Sure, sure. It's interesting you say that with the holidays and eating. I used to do Weight Watchers, and literally every coming into November, we'd always say, we're not going to be a statistic and gain the 15 pounds. Unfortunately, I haven't done it in a while, and triple statistic here every once in a while. But I think you're right. I think it is staying on top of mind. I think there's some things that that you could certainly do. I think, you know, certainly as you're talking about, I mean, nutrition is a great example. There could be, you know, some social media pieces where you're doing some like simple tips, like, you know, tips to help control portions during the holidays, you know, tips for low calorie appetizers, things like that. I think in other types of businesses too, certainly, if you're looking at businesses and things like that, it's those are probably more the, you know, the holiday image postings and things like that of the team. But even kind of thinking about what are some positive or negative impacts of the holiday season, which could potentially require your services, and really start building that into some of the content and postings. I think are the bigger pieces there.
Absolutely. What about you, Rudy?
So service businesses, wow, I have a heart for them because I know that, you know, it impacts a few things around the De La Garza household around here, that's for sure. So not only can a service also be like a gifting, my mind immediately goes to how can I make this service into a gift card or a gift certificate, right? How can I be relevant as a stocking stuffer, right? So you know, my creativity just kind of goes there, and then the marketing mind just kind of takes it from there. I believe that any service related business on this Zoom call right now could be a gift certificate. And if that's not actionable this time of season, then, you know, you need to think about how you can do that going forward. There is always a unique angle to your business, and you need to, I'm just going to encourage you and also challenge you to start to get creative about, or think about your service in a new way, where you can apply your service almost in reverse. Try and think about things backwards. That's what I do when I'm stuck. I'll like, how do I, okay, let's just flip it on its head, right? You know, instead of someone themselves, well, that's where my mind immediately went. Would they buy it for somebody else? Right?
Mhm.
So think about that. And again, you know, if you were to spend time with Jackie or myself, even for a short period of time, you know, maybe there's something that creativity could be brought out.
Mhm.
Yeah, and what better gift 'tis the season than to help people save money on furthering their businesses,
Yeah.
right? Like, especially if you're
Yep.
B2B. All right, so before we jump into our questions, which I know you all have many, so really, really quickly, I just want to make sure that you tell them, Paul, Rudy, how they can get in contact with you, but there's something special. So let's start with you, Paul, since you're on the left side of my screen.
There
Tell
we
us a
go.
little bit about this and tell us how we can contact you.
Yeah, so I can be reached at Paul at Vizit, VIZIT.com or visit.com. But you know, we're happy to offer you one of our latest ebooks, which was looking at 1,000 images across Walmart, Amazon, and Target, and really finding some of the similarities and what are the best practices that brands need to know in order to improve their conversion potential. So more than happy to offer that free ebook to anyone who wants it.
I love free 99. It's my favorite price. All right. So tell us, Rudy, how can we contact you and what is this?
Oh, okay, good, good. This is my favorite part here. So, Jackie, you did such a great service for everyone by putting Paul's email in the chat. If you could drop mine in there too, Rudy at YieldDay.com. I'm going to drop something in the chat as well here too. Not only could you reach me via email if you'd like to, but I'd like to give you my Calendly link to schedule 15 or 30 minutes with me so that we can talk about your business. I have a heart for small business. My father and grandfather and great grandfather were all small businessmen growing up in Dallas. And so I was that kid that knew what an invoice was at the age of 9. And when I had the opportunity to be the first the first person in my family to go off to college, I went to business school. And I couldn't believe how I ran circles around those kids. I was like, how do you guys not know this? Like, it was just really cool to be able to do that. So I'd love to spend 15 to 30 minutes with you talking about your business, talking about how we can utilize these opportunities either in the moment. We have a tremendous amount of experience with these tactics. And I'll tell you that YieldDay was actually just a regular service that was spawned out of our agency, SEOmarketing.com. So I'm going to hit return on that. And right now, all of you have my Calendly link to schedule a time.
Bombard them. Okay. All right. So Colleen, before we get into Q&A, anything we need to know from our wonderful friends at Mastercard, because I want to get these questions.
I know we're almost at time, but I want to make sure we do have time for Q&A. Just very quickly, in addition to the generous offers that Paul and Rudy have made, please know that they also have discounted offers on that Marketing Hub site that we looked at before, right? So for Vizit, there is an opportunity for 50% off an annual subscription. And for YieldDay, I believe we have a 1-month free trial and then 30% off if you sign up for 6 months, or a free month, 30% off your first month for 6 months, or a free month for an annual subscription. So we'll drop the Marketing Hub link again in, and I want to thank both Paul and Rudy for being with us tonight and for offering these promotions that were such a nice surprise.
Yeah, thank you so much, Colleen. All right, let's get this Q&A going so that everyone can eat, because at this point it's supper, dinner time, whatever you call it in your part of the country, everywhere, right? All right, so I know that one of the questions that came up a couple times was if you don't have a business address, like if you are e-commerce, you are not like brick and mortar as it pertains to the Google profiles and the Apple profiles, that kind of thing. does that still work? I think is more the question. What do you do if you don't have that? Does that still work? And I feel like you kind of addressed a little bit of it because none of the things that you mentioned were location based, actually, the things as you went down. They were more like, who are you? What do you sell anyway?
Yeah.
Right. But when you don't have a brick and mortar, tell us a little bit about what that's like. Now, that was your information, Rudy. So
Rudy,
I'll
yeah.
start with you, but Paul, please feel free to jump in there.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, I'll just give you an example of the agency that we run. We operate, I think we mentioned in my bio, I also operate SEOmarketing.com, which is where YieldDay came out of. Well, that business doesn't have a brick and mortar. It has a PO box. So that's a location. I do have a PO box that is in, of course, my town, and it's at a US, what is it, USPS store? Yeah, no, a UPS store. Yeah,
Yes, or yeah.
a UPS store. Yeah, and I've had it for, I don't know, going on 17 years now. So that's been my address. And that's where I get all business mail. And that's, I'm also able to have some privacy that way too. I don't have a lot of spam, direct mail come into my mailbox. It all goes there, right? And so I would say that, it might be an additional expense to you, but if the benefit is that you're able to get into that map box and be relevant, you might want to consider that.
Yeah, that's good. Anything to add, Paul?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think certainly looking at things like trying to leverage some reviews, and certainly the content I think will also work from the search engine optimization piece as well. But I think I agree, definitely the PO boxes and pieces like that will certainly help you get into the map box.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Now, I'm trying to go through, thank you, Colleen. Colleen is right on time. I was trying to scroll back up the chat and get the questions. I know that we got asked that question a few different ways, a couple times. So that was one thing. And I want to just go ahead and open up and say again, if you all have any questions as I review. One of the things earlier someone asked while I was running my mouth was if you should have the kind of same messaging across all of your digital channels. And I quickly said the answer to that was yes. One thing I do always tell people, especially in a social media space, right? When we say digital channels, that means so many things. It means Google, it means social. It's a lot more than just social, right? But when we think specifically about places where you are creating content, having people be able to have a familiar feeling, no matter where they are, is what branding is really all about. I don't know if you've ever had that experience as a consumer where you see an image or you see a graphic or you see something and you're like, oh, I thought that was so-and-so, but it wasn't. And you're confused because your mind automatically remembers or is triggered to this particular brand, right? And so we want to make sure that even because I know we think we're small, we can't do that. Sure, we can. As long as we're being consistent with our message, we're consistent with our branding, across all channels. Now, my caveat to that, just to make sure I make this disclaimer, there is always one in this business, is that I don't want to follow you in multiple places and see the exact same thing, right? If I'm going to get the same thing on Facebook as I get on Instagram, as I get on LinkedIn, why am I in all those places with you? Like I just saw that, right? So while you may not do a ton to make changes in those spaces, you want to tweak something to consider the platform that you're on, the mindset that your audience is in when they're on that platform. I always tell people, one of my favorite examples around like social media is, I tell people, I saw this online somewhere, someone got a driver's license and on Instagram was like, hey, I got my driver's license. I'm so excited. But on LinkedIn, they were like, I am happy to announce that I have been certified to operate a motor vehicle in the state of Alabama. It's like, you got a license. What are we doing here, right? But it's the mentality of the platform. We're highlighting an accomplishment instead of just telling our business on Instagram and, making fun of it and posting pictures. And so there's a mentality change there too. So you want to be consistent, but you do also just want to make sure that you are recognizable, thinking about your audience in all spaces, which is literally what they do for a living, making sure that people are able to see that. So anything to add to that? I don't see any other questions, but before I let everyone go, any other questions? Oh, there was that one right there. But anything to add to that?
Yeah, you know what, Jackie, I would add to that is I would also relieve you of the burden of thinking that you have to be on all these platforms.
Yeah.
You do.
You know, I mean, you know, it's quite possible that, well, here, I'll just put it simply. If you did one well, it'd be better than doing 3 of them poorly.
That is a fact.
So
That is
I
fact.
would, getting back to Jackie's point, understanding your audience, well, where are they? You know, it's quite possible that your audience is either in Facebook or LinkedIn. They're probably not in both. So just kind of make some strategic decisions on where you're going to spend your time and do it well.
And I
Thank
would
you.
just add, for anyone who's not had the benefit of Jackie's Digital Marketing Frontlines workshop, we can also send out, she's got some great summary slides on each of the platforms and the data about who's on there and how many visitors and the demographics. So we'll include that in our email follow-up.
I did the Googling for you.
It's great. It's great. Yeah.
I did the Googling for you, and I put way too many words on those slides for that purpose, for the purpose of sending them. And you will also get tonight's slides, and I'll go in before I resend it over to Colleen. I will make sure that I link things and just put things kind of into place. So as you go back and think through this conversation that we've had, which thank you, Paul, and thank you, Rudy, so much for your expertise and for sharing and for your willingness to give away the game. I really, really appreciate that. And also to Mastercard for giving us the space and the platform to give away the game to all of us who really, really need it. But when you go through those slides and you think about this conversation, I want you to be able to just click and easily get to what you're trying to get to. And so we'll load you up with as much information as easily accessible as possible so that you can utilize the things that you've heard. Now, this is my last call for questions. I see a lot of thank yous. Thank you all for participating in the chat as well. I see a lot of thank yous. I love a good thank you.
And thank you, Jackie, for leading this conversation.
Yes, thank you.
This has been great.
I appreciate you all listening to me. The whole confetti, things I've learned that Zoom can do. Voila.
What fun.
Yeah, Zoom is really trying hard these days. All right. So if there are no other questions, Colleen, I have to give it back to you to close us up.
I think we are closing up. Yeah, just thank you everyone for the time and the energy and the Q&A, being engaged here. And we will look for the information in your inboxes tomorrow. And we look forward to, I hope everyone has a very, very financially lucrative, but also peaceful holiday. And we'll see you again in 2024.
Bye.
Happy
Thank
holidays, everyone.
Thank
Merry
you.
Christmas. Happy New Year,
Bye.
y'all.
Bye.